Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Lightning Talks. I'm Samantha Kim. I'm part of the marketing team here at solo.io. I'm excited to welcome our Lightning Talk speakers. So please help me extend a warm welcome to Mark and Sebastian from CARFAX, who will be sharing information about how they are using Gloo Edge at scale. Over to you, Mark and Sebastian.
Hey everyone, my name's Mark. We'll be talking about Gloo Edge at scale. And just some quick introductions here. My name's Mark Portofe. I'm Director of Platform Engineering at CARFAX. And with me today is Sebastian Chacko, who's the Solutions Architect of our Platform Engineering department at CARFAX. We handle a lot of our AWS infrastructure for CARFAX. So just a little bit about the agenda, what we'll be talking today. We'll go through, I'll tell you a little bit about CARFAX, the CARFAX.com domain, which is our main consumer-facing domain. A little bit how we went up to AWS and our usage of Gloo. Sebastian will cover our high-level architecture and how we went about choosing an ingress controller for our architecture. And then we'll talk a little bit about our lessons learned and what's next. So first, a little bit about CARFAX. Some of you may have heard of us. You might see the CARFAX on TV and heard our slogan, "Show me the CARFAX." We have a mission of providing millions of people with information on how to shop, buy, sell, maintenance their car with a lot more confidence. To do that, we actually have a ton of data that stands behind our products and services. Over 100,000, 130,000 data sources, as well as over 120 billion records regarding vehicles and automobiles. Our customers, they can be general consumers, dealers, automotive manufacturers, banks, insurance companies. So we have a wide array of customer types. Today we'll be focusing mostly about CARFAX.com, which focuses on the general consumer. And then we have various locations as well in the US, Canada, Europe. CARFAX.com services predominantly the US market space with maybe a little bit of traffic coming in from Canada as well. A little bit about CARFAX.com. You can see our header there, our footer, some of the products and services that we do support. Things such as used car listings, a vehicle history report, information on how to maintain or service your car. The one thing that's unique about the consumer space on our customer-facing side is that with some of those television ads that we run, the traffic can get a little spiky. Depending upon when we run that TV ad and what the viewership is. It might be during a big NFL playoff game. It might be during the Olympics, et cetera. We can see noticeable spikes in our traffic coming in. So we've got to be able to make sure that we can scale to those needs. Right now, we're ranked 353rd in the US by traffic volume per SEM rush. And that equates to roughly 2 billion requests or so, a little over 2 billion requests coming into Gloo Edge on our architecture. So as you can tell, for us, being a consumer-facing app, we have to really focus on speed, reliability, availability, scalability, all the standard terms you might think of with a high-traffic website. So a little bit about how we got up to AWS and started leveraging Gloo for our needs. We started back in 2017. The first application that we migrated up to AWS was actually our CARFAX blog. And originally that was a Beanstalk application, and we migrated it to Kubernetes recently. But we started back then in 2017, and we progressed by migrating other applications up to CARFAX.com as well, such as our used car listings, our homepage, our car research pages. But one thing to note, at that point in time, we were in a hybrid state. We had on-prem data centers, and then we were migrating up to AWS. So we had traffic split between AWS and our on-prem data centers. In September of 2019, we actually began rolling out microservices leveraging Gloo Edge, and we started to convert over to Gloo Edge. We were on Trafic 1.0 at that point in time, and we started to migrate over. As of September 2020, we actually had 100% of our traffic routing through AWS, and ultimately in June of 2021, we had fully migrated over to Gloo Edge from Trafic. So we completed that migration last year. And then this fall, we started to actually POC and start to prototype our service mesh, which we're looking at Gloo Mesh right now. With that said, I'm going to turn the mic over to Sebastian, and he can talk through our high-level architecture.
Thank you, Mark. So once again, I'm Sebastian. I'm solutions architect for the platform engineering department here at CARFAX. I want to apologize in advance for my voice. I'm fighting off a little bit of a cold, and you might hear me coughing. So sorry about that. So in this slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture diagram for CARFAX.com that we have. And so our Kubernetes environment, which encompasses Gloo Edge, is spread across two AWS regions, US East 1 and US East 2. And we have one EKS cluster in each of those regions. So when a user wants to get to CARFAX.com, the first entry point that they land on is CloudFront, which is AWS's CDN product. And for apps that have caching configured at that layer, they get immediate response. And for apps that are configured to as an origin from S3, CloudFront loads that from S3 and serves it back to the user. The piece where Gloo Edge comes in is for dynamic content, where CloudFront will make that call to one of our clusters in East 1 or East 2, depending on geolocation routing, depending on where you are, and that lands the customer on our external facing load balancer, behind which is running Gloo Edge in our EKS environment, and that takes care of all the routing from there. Next slide, please, Mark. So I know Mark talked a little bit about how our journey and how we landed on AWS, or how we migrated for the past 2-3 years. So the first piece that we had to solve is what is our compute environment or provider that we're going to use. We evaluated options that were available at the time, Beanstalk, EC2, ECS, etc., and we ended up landing on Kubernetes because we felt that gives us the best value. Once we were done with that, the next thing, the most important decision was choosing an ingress controller, because that eventually that gets the person or the customer to where they want to go. So that was our biggest decision at the time, and we evaluated the choices that were available, and we landed on Trafic, which is another ingress controller like Glue Mesh. It provided simple path-based routing at the time, fit our initial use case, and we were good with that. But as our Kubernetes footprint grew, we quickly outgrew the capabilities that Trafic had at the time. So we had apps coming on board that were SPAs, SSRs, APIs, etc. So we needed a controller that could provide granular path-based routing, as well as like redirection, and most importantly, API gateway functionalities like auth, rate limiting, firewalling, ability to hit non-Kubernetes targets, etc., and be able to handle the load that we were throwing at it. So we were using AWS API Gateway, we still are, but we wanted something that integrates a little bit better with our environment than that. So that's where we landed on Gloo Edge, which is the most feature-rich, technologically advanced option that we evaluated at the time. So fast forwarding today, we're serving 2 billion plus requests per month through Gloo Edge, like Mark mentioned before. Mark, next slide, please. So this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about the lessons learned. The journey has taken a while, so we had definitely had some positives and lessons learned throughout it. So positives, first thing, the solo support is super awesome. Like they provide us a dedicated Slack channel and a Slack workspace where we can like not only ask like issues and help with debugging issues, but also like implementation level questions. Like when we're adding a new feature or something, we can go ahead and ask them, hey, how do we add this? What is the helm value for this and stuff? And they're super helpful with that, which is awesome. And then the traffic scale and chaos testing. I know we mentioned this a couple of times before. The traffic scale, this domain runs a lot of traffic, and Glue was able to handle everything that we threw at it. And it was able to provide slightly better performance than we had with our Traffic 1.0 implementation, our previous ingress controller. And then chaos testing, that's something we've tried to incorporate into our deployment workflow for big infrastructure releases. It's manual at this time. So basically we go into our cluster and pick out this component and try and fail different portions of this. So with Glue Edge, we went in and failed different components of it, and it was able to handle almost every scenario we threw out it with no issues. Moving over to the lessons learned. discovery. So Gloo Edge Discovery is an awesome tool to get you going. So it automatically discovers all the Kubernetes resources within your cluster and creates upstreams automatically. But what we found was it's not super production ready. So when we all of our other resources are created using Argo CD, and when we had these upstreams that are automatically discovered and other resources created through Argo, there were conflicts there. And there's also like a resource use bug in discovery. So Solo recommended that we don't use it in production. So we switched over to using or creating the Gloo Edge upstreams using again Argo CD YAML, and that's worked for us well. And the next was deployments versus daemon sets. So Gloo can be deployed in a couple of different configurations. The first one is as a Kubernetes deployment or a daemon set. In our previous implementation with Trafic, we were running it as a daemon set, particularly so that we could run it on specific instances and not have that bogged down by other resources running on it, so that the ingress gateways or the ingress piece is isolated from the rest of the cluster and won't be a cause of failure. So we went down the same route with Gloo Edge and reviewed with Solo, and they recommended we stick with daemon sets with our current architecture. Next slide, please, Mark. And so what's next? So Gloo Edge, like I talked before, we started using Gloo Edge for all of these API gateway type features, which we are starting to explore right now. Like one of the things that our teams are really excited about is the Gloo Edge and Lambda integration, so that teams are not isolated into only running Kubernetes services behind Gloo Edge. So we can just use the same API gateway to also front Lambda applications, and teams have that flexibility, so which is awesome. And then another thing we're really excited about Gloo Edge having is the Gloo OIDC integration, where we can just add authentication to any page we want without really even have to make any app changes. So you can just configure OIDC with an SSO provider, and your page voila is authenticated. So that's awesome. And then the last thing we're working on or hoping to work on for this year is Gloo Mesh. So one of the things that's been missing from our environment is a proper service mesh. So we towards the last year we evaluated a few different options. We looked at Linkerd, AWS AF Mesh, Istio, and we felt Istio was our best choice. And but we definitely felt that Istio is a big beast to combat by itself. So when Gloo Mesh came out, that was really exciting for us because that abstracts away a lot of the management piece for Istio. So we're really excited to try and get that out this year. That being said, I think that's all for our presentation today, our lightning talk today. So thank you so much for coming, and I hope this was insightful for you guys.